Hey everyone, welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. We are driving into a fascinating topic today. We're going to connect, I think, with a lot of our users today. We're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of CNC in the sign making industry.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating.
It's going to be great.
Sign making has transformed dramatically, obviously, over the years, and what started as a lot of hands-on, labor-intensive crafting, has become very innovative and tech-driven, right? It's a tech-driven industry. And therefore, I feel like CNC technology has played a massive role in that transformation. And obviously, as always, I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo, discussing with the all-important Nick Peters.
I'm going to get 86 words in today.
86 words.
So people are not going to know what to do.
He doesn't.
Because they're not going to know who I am hearing my voice.
Yeah, right. You know what we're going to do in this episode, though? We're going to explore how CNC has revolutionized the sign making industry. That's what we're really going to do. And why it's becoming an essential tool in the industry. We're going to talk a little bit about where it's heading in the future. And I think if you're a sign maker or you're thinking about expanding into the signage industry, don't go anywhere because this episode is going to be for you.
I should have brought a joke referring to signs. There's got to be many of them.
Here's your sign.
I missed. What's your sign?
You missed on it, man. You had an opportunity today.
I did. It's okay. Next time.
I think we need to talk about the fact that we are in a new setting right now and it feels uncomfortable.
It's really weird.
It's weird.
It's like, I don't know. I have to put effort into looking in your eyes now. I can't just stare across the table. Now I got to turn.
Did we just become best friends?
I mean, maybe. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers have to hug.
Well, I feel like we're already hugging because we're right next to each other in this table. And
yeah,
I feel like I'm in a therapy session.
A little bit.
Nick.
We should turn the lights on a little bit and then just yeah.
Tell me how you feel today, Nick.
Pretty good, actually.
It's good.
Yeah.
And then somebody put the Dumb and Dumber guy behind the camera. So there's a big picture of the Dumb and Dumber character on the wall.
And I was looking through my phone frantically trying to find a picture of my oldest kid that had a haircut just like that when he was 8.
Oh, really?
And he posed next to the scene kind of like that when the dude's looking out the car window. And it looked identical. So I got to find it somewhere.
You got to find that.
Rodney was waiting for me to show it. And he's like, okay, well, I've been waiting 10 minutes and you haven't found it, so I got to go.
I have a new podcast for Rodney.
Do you?
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, though.
It was we'll think of something.
Just Twin Rodneys or Dueling Rodneys.
That's what it was.
It was Dueling Rodneys. We're going to get Dueling Rodneys on the show.
That'd be really funny.
I think we need to get Rodney on the show.
We're not doing anybody else on the show until Jim comes on the show.
We can't do anybody else on the show because there's no room in this room anymore. What are they going to do, sit on our laps?
I mean, we'll find room for him. I can move over. They got a wide enough lens on this camera. We'll get us all on the screen.
Fair. Okay.
Or just
do it. There is a limitation of a wall.
Once it gets nice out, we can just go do it up on the roof and have it outside.
Ooh.
That'd be sick.
The rooftop talk with ShopSabre.
We could take out beach chairs and just sit back and chill with microphones in our hand and record on the roof. That'd be awesome.
I don't hate the idea.
Shirts on, of course.
Of course. We are not built for TV.
Shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops and...
Oh my.
That'd be
sick.
Wait.
That was not the right spot.
That'd be really fun, actually.
We should do it. I don't know why we haven't already done this.
Because it's damn cold outside. Well, it's not this week.
That's it. It's
nice
actually not
now,
that cold outside. And let's be honest, we have jackets, hats, and gloves.
I definitely don't have a jacket. I never wear a jacket.
Really?
I'm kind of an idiot. No, because I'm walking 7 seconds from the car to the door. I'm not going to get that cold.
I wear a hat, gloves.
Well, yeah, you have nothing on your head. Of course you need a hat.
That's true.
Get hypothermia just walking outside because you have no protection.
It's actually true. I just switched vehicles I'm driving, and...
You got a new car?
I did. And I left my hat in my truck. And so I came into work and I'm like, oh man, my head's
You know
cold.
what's really funny about that?
What?
Leaving things in the cars? I was just randomly looking for signs to send out with our machine.
Here's your sign.
Yesterday. Oh, we're back to this again. But I was downstairs wandering around and Curtis was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, just trying to find random signage that we could send to this. He's like, you know what? I think I have one in my trunk. You know, to his trunk, he had a ShopSabre sign that was carved into wood.
In Curtis's trunk?
Yeah, because apparently he used to go to career shows or something and had this sign that his wife found in the garage last fall when she was cleaning. He put it in his trunk and forgot about it until yesterday when I brought it up. Because I asked the question, he looked at me really confused. And I was like, yeah, I know it's a really random and probably dumb sounding question. He's like, no, that's not it at all. But I'm pretty sure I have something in my trunk. He went out to his car and brought the sign
Just
back
rolling
in.
around the ShopSabre sign in the
Yeah,
back
it
of
was
his car.
just very random, but
It's awesome.
Kind of fit the topic.
Seems fitting. It seems like it'd be, here's your sign.
You're not good at jokes. Leave that to the
Keep
professionals.
going. You went to Twins Fest this week, didn't you?
Yeah, it was awesome, actually.
Dude, your kid got so many signatures.
He did. He was like living the life. He loved it. It was cool seeing like.
Tell the people what Twins Fest is, because people maybe don't know what that is.
So basically, it's just kind of a gathering of a bunch of crazy fans at the field. Well, I mean, people buy tickets just like you do to a game, but you get to go down like in the clubhouse, which is like their locker room. They had a mini golf course set up, which is kind of cool. They have a bunch of autograph stations set up. It's like a fundraiser for their community fund.
So you just pay for the ticket, and then you get all those autographs that you
No,
guys get?
each stand has like a price. So it was like the first three were like $20 for the three guys, and then he got Buxton's was like $30. But it's all a fundraiser for the community fund. Like if it was a fundraiser for the owners, I wouldn't have went because whatever. But it's for charity and stuff like that. So we had fun. Got a bunch of autographs, played a bunch of games. Get to see cool parts of the stadium that you only really get to see if you have like sweet tickets and
That's cool.
things like that. So it was fun.
It's actually at the Twin Stadium.
Yeah, and most of it's actually like in the basement. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah,
like in the service.
That's what I was going to say. I saw
like,
some
all
of the pictures, and I didn't recognize any
Yeah,
of
it was definitely down. Like it was actually level -2 that we had to go to.
Was it warm?
Outside, no. Inside, it was.
So there was outdoor portions of this?
No, but there, little to my knowledge, there was 1 million people that were going to this. So we got to like 8:45, and I'm like, oh, Drew, we can just hang out in the car until they start letting people in. I look outside, and there's a line of 20,000 people already waiting to get in. I'm like, okay, we're just going to wait till the doors open and people start going, and then we'll go get in line. So we only had to be outside for like 10 minutes because it was cold and windy. But it was fun.
That's cool. No, it looked like he had a good time. I saw lots of autographs, so
it was cool.
He brought 3 brand new baseballs I saw.
Yeah, and he got his jersey signed, so now
Yeah.
I got to find some way to frame his jersey, and he wants to start an autographed baseball collection. So I'm like,
That's cool.
That's cool, yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I saw that now he has graduated to playing hockey in the house.
Yeah, Natalie was thrilled.
My kids have been doing that since they were 3, so
Especially when
I know
shot
what she's feeling because my wife didn't love it.
I shot the ball through the living room, and
Well, of course.
yeah, she's like, go in the hallway. I'm like, there's not enough room.
Yeah, like why would we do that?
that's-
My wife used to say the same thing. She's like, no shooting the ball in the house. I'm like, slap shot.
Good luck. It's
Too bad.
3-on-1 on who's going to win this
Yeah,
argument.
right.
Like, you're not winning.
Yeah, there's 3 hockey sticks and 1 Amy.
Right.
We're
Good
even.
luck.
We're even.
What'd you do this weekend?
I finished the new hot rod.
I did see that.
I finished the new hot rod. So, what was it? 3.5 months ago, I rolled the old hot rod.
Yep.
Tumble buggied it all the way down the front stretch, yard sailed it, and 3 months later, here we are. We're ready to go again.
I kind of thought you were going to maybe like take a year off.
I was gonna.
It seemed like
I was
it.
1,000% convinced I was gonna, but my kids, my son, Ethan was really kind of more upset about my youngest.
Yeah.
He's the one who was there when it happened, and he's like, "Dad, you gotta build another one." And then my wife actually kind of pushed on me and was like, "What are we gonna do in the summer if we don't have a race car?" And I'm like, "I don't know what normal people do," but
She just wanted you to spend more time in the garage and at the racetrack, so you weren't bothering her.
maybe it could be very much that. She knows I would do something stupid with our time if not. So
That's fair.
She's a creature of habit, so she didn't want to have to change something.
True.
But no, it was really a big part of it, and I really was content with not having a race car. After it was all gone, I cleaned my shop out, like you saw.
Yep,
I did a
yep.
big overhaul in my shop. I cleaned everything, and I was kind of like, this is nice just having a bunch of space and not having anything there. But
what are you going to do with all the empty space? Just look at it?
well, I don't know. I mean, I get kids' toys everywhere. But
Oh.
yeah, I don't know. I just was kind of got bored, and then we started building one, and I swore I was going to take my time. We don't need to get it done. We don't race till April anyways. Like, I'll use all the time. And then, yeah, you know how it is. Like, you start on something, and you're like, oh, I can get one more thing done. And you just, 8 hours later, you're in the garage, and you've gotten a ton of stuff done on the car. So,
And now it's ready to go?
yeah, and pretty much. It's got some minor things. I got to put, our normal setup stuff into it. And then I got to put our new wrap on it this year. So,
Go do some ice racing?
no, we're not going ice
I mean,
racing.
you can slide around on mud. What's the difference? It's just ice.
Not going ice racing. The difference is I'm cold when I'm ice racing.
You just said you can wear a jacket and hat and gloves and stay warm.
But I can't wear any of that when you have a helmet on and your fire suit on.
Well, a fire suit's kind of like a full jacket.
It is
keep you
kind of,
warm.
but there's still limitations to how much clothes that you can put on underneath it. And if you put it over it, you kind of defeat the purpose of wearing a fire suit because now you're on fire.
Yeah, but then it'll only burn through your clothes, not your fire suit. And eventually you get to the fire suit and stop.
That's not how it works. Fire suits don't just stop fire. They just allow you to survive fire for a little bit longer.
See, I learned something new today.
Oh my God.
I have a lot of racing knowledge. You should probably
clearly
add me to your
I'm gonna add you to the
safety
pit
team.
crew. I'm gonna add you to the pit crew.
Yeah, that'd be
We're gonna start a new podcast, the Pit Crew with Nick Peters.
That would be sweet.
And we're gonna just have you give your take on everything we're doing.
I've had a lot of good racing takes on this show in the last several months.
That's
so
why we're gonna do it.
be highly entertaining.
Like, what did you guys do on Brandon's car? Well, we tightened that nut, which makes the car fast.
yeah, and then we put some illegal stuff in the back.
This is going well.
Well, if you're not cheating, you ain't trying. Isn't that what they say?
No, if you ain't cheating, you ain't eating.
Yeah, well, whatever. Same thing.
For the record, we're not cheating.
You said to talk more. I'm talking more.
Hence why we're not eating.
It is lunchtime.
It is lunchtime.
We could do a food podcast too.
Ooh, we could. Foodies with Nick.
Just think, we could do so many podcasts. We wouldn't have to sit out there with those idiots.
Speaking of foodies, we can talk about Swifties.
Hey man, I don't mind Taylor Swift,
It's the
but I don't want to watch the football game. On
the
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl everybody wanted.
You know what though? We're all mad about it right now, and they're talking about not wanting to watch it.
Oh, I didn't say that.
We're
I'm
gonna watch it. I did.
Yeah.
I told you, I'm like, we're not watching the
I'm
Super
having a
Bowl.
party. I have a party every year in the Super Bowl. I'm watching it regardless. But I did order extra nacho cheese this year because with the teams that are playing, people are going to spend less time watching, more time eating.
That's fair. God, nacho cheese sounds so good.
Yeah, we got a nacho cheese machine.
White queso.
Nope, we got the traditional nacho cheese machine.
Well, moving on.
All right, fine. Fine, we can move on. We
No,
can
we
move
don't
on.
have to. We don't have
No,
to.
we can. That's fine. We can move on.
But I just have one thing to say.
Okay.
Josh Allen got screwed.
I don't disagree.
Two officials were two
One was
yards
clearly
apart.
past the yard marker. Clearly when he walked in.
And I just don't understand. Like, it's been said a million times, but the NFL is a gazillion-dollar business,
Gazillion.
and they can't figure out a way to
That's
use more
gazillion.
technology than some unofficial line across the field and humans from 50 yards away.
It's actually funny that you say that because let's talk about technology for a second. I don't know. I know I'm going to sound stupid here. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm going to do it. I know you probably aren't following this, but in the sport of tennis, okay, there's a lot of tennis fans out there.
Yeah.
So I happen to have just been watching some tennis.
I know where this is going.
They have a microchip in the ball.
Yeah.
And they can tell if the ball is out of bounds.
And they show like the animated
Right.
court, and it shows exactly where it bounces.
Correct.
There's no reason the NFL can't do that.
And that's what
Tennis
I thought to
is
myself.
doing it.
Like, and I thought that to myself, and I've always thought that, but I just never said anything about it until this. And then it's like somebody made a comment about it, and I'm like, it's true. Tennis can do it. Why can't football do it?
right?
Like, because I always thought like maybe the microchip would throw the football off and the spiral and all. Like, no.
I did. Okay,
No.
so I did read something on Twitter last night, or X, whatever it's called now. There was some like genius math guy talking about even just a tiny microchip apparently would like throw the air pressure and the weight of the ball off, which I think is crazy.
Is that okay
But
though? Like,
I mean-
it's part of the game at that point.
Just
It's
have,
gonna
have
throw it
Tom
off
Brady
forever.
adjust the air pressure in the footballs for you to get it right, and then it'll work just fine.
My question is, well played. Don't they have like microchips in baseballs already?
I mean, no.
No, baseballs don't do it. Well, how does baseball do the trajectory thing that they do?
Oh, that's just like they have like radars, kind of like they have for golf when they do it, like behind the plate, so it reads it.
That makes sense.
But
Well,
I
Top
just-
Golf, they have a microchip in their ball,
for sure,
and it doesn't change my shot. I still suck with the chip or without
right?
the chip.
Same. So it's like I don't know. I just don't understand how it's 2025, almost 2026, and they can't get it figured out.
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we have AI intelligence now. We have self-driving cars. We have remote ability to open our doors with
Yeah.
our phones. But yes, let's use old school technology on. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, he's over. Like, come
Two
on.
96-year-old guys holding some chains 30 feet apart with a bunch of styrofoam things on the sidelines.
Right.
Like, it took them till 2024 to get cameras in the pylons that they've been using for 30 years.
I just don't understand
It
it.
makes no sense.
I don't know. And again, I'm not just saying because I'm not a Josh Allen fan. I'm not a Bills fan. I don't care.
No.
I really don't. But just to me, it's ridiculous that we're having these
There
conversations.
shouldn't be so much human element still involved when there's
Right.
technology available to take that away.
Right.
I don't know.
I agree with you. Yes. Thank you.
I've said enough for today.
You've said too much. Okay, let's move on.
I feel like now we're just staring at each other and not the camera.
No, I'm staring at the camera. I have said hello to our viewers several. Hey, viewers.
I'm trying to give you more attention than you deserve
Hey.
by looking at you and communicating and whatever, but
It's like a cooking show.
yeah, I like that. Bam. Okay. We've wasted 15 minutes of our time.
All right,
let's get
go.
to the real brass tacks.
Let's get to the brass tacks. So we're going to jump into some customer questions and comments. And I know you got a few you brought with you today, right, Nick?
I do.
So let's fire it away. See if you can stump me. Let's go.
I do have one I know that'll stump you later on.
Oh, God. Here we go. Here we go.
So referring to the ISA video, he said, this is very cool, but I feel like I need to go back to college to learn how to do this. Do you offer or suggest classes to learn how to do this?
The answer is B. No, we do not suggest it. You go to college for it. I don't think you need to. Obviously, we do offer classes. We do here at ShopSabre. It's a big part of what we do. We have included training. We have lifetime tech support. We offer private training if you really want us to come out, depending on what machine you own and how much money you want to spend on, investing in yourself. We can come out and spend a day with you, spend a week with you, whatever you need. I would say that in all the years of me doing it, I don't think I've ever spent a week anywhere. I just don't think we need to. We've really spent a lot of our energy, kind of going back to our conversation with the footballs, right? And the technology. Like we spent a lot of our energy like modernizing the installation process. Right. The machines drop on the floor, they go to work. You have the ability to really get started with some videos that we've already put in place and, some really decent startup guides, right? We give you a lot of resources. And then for, every person's going to have questions, right? It just is one of those things. No matter how much you try to future-proof that, like you're going to have questions.
For sure.
And so that's why we do the lifetime support. Like we want you to pick the phone up. We want you to call us. We'll walk you through it. We have the ability to remotely connect to our equipment. So the vast majority of what people are getting into, we can do it without ever having to fly anywhere and not, you're not spending a fortune to do it. But there are people that are just more comfortable with the old school, like boots on the ground, give me a person, right? And, we do have that available as well. We have traveling techs. In fact, Ben is out on site today. We did a tool changer upgrade in a customer's facility, and rather than the customer installing their tool changer, that's something we do. So they paid for us to come out there. So instead of Ben being out there installing the tool changer, he could be out there doing the training, right? Or somebody could be out there doing the training, Ray or Gio or anybody. But the quick and easy answer is no. You don't need to go to college. I understand it can look complicated when you haven't done something, but I remind people you can do a lot by just trying, right? And a lot of it's self-taught, self-educated because trial by error, right? Did you necessarily go to school to learn everything you've ever done? No. A lot of times you learn more in the real world than you do in school. So I feel like school's got its time and place, but I definitely think for operating like our machines, I can't speak for everybody's equipment, but referring to the ShopSabre ISA, which is what you said this was related to, I don't think you need to go to college. I understand it can look complex, it can look like a lot there, but between our phone support, email support, our remote connectivity, and then of course our training videos, tips, tricks, all that fun stuff, I think we can get you up and running in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had people say the same thing, like, "Oh, this is overwhelming. I've never used CNC before," and then that's the day they order, and then within a couple weeks of going through the university and watching all the videos, you're like, "Oh, I can't wait for this thing to get here. I feel like I'm really ready." So it's kind of goes back to what you said, that there's a million resources that we give people to make it as easy as possible.
And yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a little intimidating up front, right? Anything new is intimidating. So yeah, I mean, you just got to try it though.
All right, number 2. Again, referring to the ISA video. Wow, this is incredible. A machine like that would be great for my house flipping and home building business.
Yeah. I mean, first, thanks for watching the video, obviously, right? I agree. I think the ISA video is pretty incredible, especially when you watch that ISA just do its thing. I mean, it's one of my favorite machines to watch just function because it does so much automation that I think back when my dad founded ShopSabre and the reason he really kicked this whole thing off, and it was just because you wanted to bring some sort of automation to people's fingertips. And now we are like full circle where it's full automation essentially, right?
Right.
The whole, like, it loads the material, it cuts it, and unloads the material kind of process. It's pretty cool to see where it came from. And I think when you think about growth from, an industry specifically related to that, he's talking about his home, or he or she, I should say, is talking about their home and, construction company. I think you said flipping, right? Flipping company. Is that what you said?
Yep.
I think it's an important investment. I couldn't imagine being in that industry in not having some form of automation nowadays.
Absolutely.
Like even if it's a machine without a loader unloader, right? Maybe you don't need an ISA because you're not running enough production volume to justify loading and unloading all day long.
Yep.
But like our Pro and our IS machines are perfect examples of that. When you start to think about really how do you get to where you need to go, I don't think you can get there doing it the manual way anymore. It's kind of what we're going to talk about today with the sign industry is just the craft of being very labor intensive and the hands-on having to do everything. Like I just don't think today's world allows for it.
No, because you're not going to keep up with the people that have adopted to those things, right?
That's my thing. I feel like my competitors would just squash me if I was in that.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut everything by hand, and that guy's got a machine. Like he's just going to undercut me.
Right, well, I just did 4 cabinet jobs today, and you're halfway through cutting one. Like that's
Right.
the type of thing you got to think about it that way.
Well, that's my thought. Is it takes a guy a week to do a job by hand that takes a machine a day.
Yeah,
Like I'm going to get my butt kicked eventually, right?
100%.
So I don't know. Thanks for watching though.
For sure. This next one's really good. I like this one. I imported my ShopSabre to the UK over a decade ago because I wanted American-made gear, and it has been a great success for me. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, first, thanks for supporting ShopSabre. I think that's the first thing we need to call out there. That's pretty awesome. I think that's a lot to do with why we do what we do, right? I mean, we could easily import products.
Oh,
we
yeah.
can go buy frames from China like everybody else has, and we can put our name on somebody else's poorly engineered product and paint it our colors, and it'd be kind of like everybody else's machines that exist for that price point. But there's nothing that sets us apart. And I think the reality of what we do is about that experience. That when people trust us with their business, it lasts decades. I think you said it was a decade ago.
Yep, that's
right?
what he said, yep.
A decade ago. I mean, you think about how much work that machine has probably done in a decade. How much money they have made with that one small investment. And to me, that's why we do what we do. I think when you look at, the luxury of, you think about how many people buy machines here in the United States and don't realize the luxury they have of buying an American-made machine. Mm-hmm. And some people take it for granted, right? They still go buy an import product, right? They go buy something else because they're trying to save a buck. And I think we have a luxury here in the U.S. specifically of buying USA-made products and getting the service and quality that come along with the majority of them. I won't say every USA product is built that way, right? But I feel like, actually I will back up and say I do think the majority of them probably do, because I think the vast majority of, if they're truly an American-made product. Now, I think there's a lot of products out there that say they're American-made that aren't American-made.
Right.
And those are the products that give American-made a bad rap, and why people, I don't think they're as good as, it's because you probably had run into something where somebody faked they were American-made. But like a true American-made product, I think there's a lot of pride behind it, right? There's a company that put a lot of time, energy, everything into it. And therefore, like the standards they're going to hold themselves to is going to be, you're going to spend more money to be American-made anyways.
For sure.
So if I'm going to do that, I might as well make sure that the experience is better, right?
Absolutely. And
So
I think more people just need to focus on that part of it,
Right.
as opposed to focusing on just price all the time. Do you think there's more people that care about the price of something or care about supporting something that's American made? Not just in like CNC business, but just in general, like anybody that goes out to the store to buy things.
I think there's more people that are focused on the price side of it. I think that scares people off
Yep.
of buying them. Maybe that's not the question that you asked.
No, it is. 'Cause I think people just kind of be like, oh, well, there's two things next to each other. This one is 40% less to what this one is. But guess what? You're going to buy this one for 40% less, but then you have to buy 3 of them to get through
And
what you need to do. That's the thing that I don't think people understand.
And I
pay
do.
attention to.
I think they do understand that,
They just don't care.
but they don't value it.
Right.
I think they look at it as I can buy 2 of them and I'm still going to be money ahead.
Right.
And I don't think people sometimes consider the inconvenience of buying 2 of them, or that the consumption of buying 2 of them. There's more to it than that. It's the time spent buying 2 of them and installing 2 of them and having to deal with the downtime that forced you to buy the second one. Like there's so many other things.
Or even just like taking an hour out of your day to run to Target to buy something that you didn't buy right the first time. Even if it's just something that simple. Like,
I don't go to the store
because then you go
anymore.
to Target and you buy 47 other things you didn't need.
Yuck. You go there and it's $100 minimum
For sure.
every time.
At least. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like it's easy, I think, to have this conversation about American made versus importing when you're talking about like going to Target. But to me, it just like in a business, on a piece of equipment, like I just don't understand it as much.
No.
Like, I want a product that is backed here by a USA company. Like, I want a product that is engineered in the United States. Like, I just, to me, that means something because I think there's a lot more time and energy put into that rather than shopping online to find out which one I want to put my name on.
Well, and if you take a step back as a consumer and like, this company obviously takes pride in being American made, that's what I want to support.
Yeah, I think that's true. I agree with you there. Yeah, no, I do. I agree with you. So, no, I like that question too. That's a good one. But I'm going to put weight on the money more than I am on the American made side of things.
For sure.
People focus too much on it. Any more questions today?
Just your audience question, but I think you can let you handle that one.
You don't have any more brain busters?
Not yet. No.
Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, maybe. You know why you should never fight a dinosaur?
Here we go. Why we should never fight a dinosaur?
Yeah. You'll get your ass kicked.
That was good. I'll give you that one. That was good. Jurassic, I get it.
Yeah.
Jurassic.
Thanks for explaining that to the guys out there like Travis that won't understand that one.
That was good. Okay, my turn to ask a real question.
All right.
What event in your life or business taught you the most?
Wow.
It's deep.
That is deep.
I want people to think about that and give us a little context on that. What event in your life or business taught you the most? Mine was the loss of my sister. That event. And I don't want to turn this. No, I don't want people turning this all like negative and be like, "Oh, poor." No, that's not what it's about. I'm answering the question. What event in my life, the loss of my sister, taught me the most? And what it taught me was value every moment you have.
That's funny because that was one of the first two things I just thought of when you read that.
Yeah, like that's exactly like it showed me the value of time is what it really showed me.
For sure.
Because, and it's more than just my sister. Okay, it's about the fact that every time somebody gives me their time, I value that more than anything else they've ever given me. And I didn't used to do that. When I was younger, I took it for granted. I took advantage of people's time, right? They were willing to come over and help me move. They were willing to come help me do, and it just didn't mean anything. Like, I appreciate you helping me because it saved me money.
Yep.
Right? That's how I looked at it as an 18-year-old kid asking his buddies to help him move. But as I got older and then I lost my sister, I realized that like we have this invisible time clock. And so if somebody's giving me some of that invaluable time, right? It's time away from doing something they really want to be doing, right? And therefore, I value that more now. And I think it taught me the most about life is that it's fragile. There's lots of things that can happen, but that also means like tomorrow's not promised.
For sure.
So like it also makes it so like I don't, and sometimes I'm bad about this. Like I don't do I'll do it tomorrow. My OCD is like, we got to do this now. Like it's on my mind. We got to get it done. We got to do it. Like, and some people hate that about me because I'm like, let's go. Let's go. Like, yeah, it's just how I am. And I've gotten worse since that event because I realized that like, if I say I'll do it later, I might never do it.
Yep.
And sometimes that means getting my work done, which is good. But sometimes that's like being frivolous. My wife doesn't like that.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes she's like, well, we got time to buy that. I'm like, I'm going to do it right now. But in the cart, done.
Yep.
It's on its way. She's like, well, we don't need it. Well, it's on its way. Like, I'm just that way sometimes with it. I think the race car is a perfect example of that. I'm going to take time building it, and now it's done.
It's done, yeah.
It's ready. Let's go. Let's go race it.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the ones that I thought losing people and thinking back and being like, I didn't really put enough effort into that relationship or like
didn't appreciate it.
Didn't appreciate the time that we had, even if it was little bits of time, you know what I mean? Like,
bear with me, I'm tangled.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what happened. I got all tangled.
We're just going to have to work through this new set a little bit to get things
Keep going.
right.
I got tangled in my cords here.
I mean, obviously you were talking about your sister, but like in the past few years, I've lost a couple of uncles that I'd randomly get to go out on the river fishing with or, things like that. Like stop by it when I was in town since I didn't live in town and talk to him for 15 minutes. And I think sometimes you take those things for granted even after losing people.
Right.
It's a good reminder. As weird as that sounds, like losing somebody is a good reminder to not get complacent and go back to taking those things for granted.
Rock bottom builds more than success.
For sure.
And those moments to me are rock bottom. Like when you hit like the point where it's like, oh my God, like your world's kind of, and I think people in business can think about that. Like times they almost lost everything. And I think about that, like some of the downturns in the economy and time, I ran a business before this business. I don't know if many people know that, but I actually had my own business before coming to ShopSabre in a little stint of why I wasn't at ShopSabre. And
Did your dad fire you?
yeah, weird. My dad fired me at one point in my life. And during that time, I decided to go be in business for myself for a while. And it teaches you a lot. Like when you're fighting an economic thing out of your control and it's like rock bottom, right? You feel like you're losing it all. And I did. I lost a lot of stuff in my life. I lost freedom. I lost the ability to like go do stuff because I didn't have the means to do it.
Your hair.
And I lost my hair. Lost that. Yep, that definitely happened. But like I think about times when I used to like I bought a box of Fruity Pebbles, and like that was my food for like the next several days. With one box of Fruity Pebbles because that's what I could afford.
Yep.
And it just teaches you really like to appreciate the better things in life when you have them, and like to not take them for granted. And sometimes in your business, like people I think take for granted their success sometimes. Like thinking that they're just going to always be successful.
And it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah, and I think like
without any effort.
those moments make you realize like you have to stay hungry all the time.
Yep.
So my question for the audience again was, what event in your life or business taught you the most? So there we are. We've actually eaten a lot of time today. I've realized that.
Eaten. That's funny.
Uh-huh.
Fruity Pebbles?
Fruity Pebbles. So anyways, let's dive into it. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane because let's talk about where sign making started, right? The early days of sign making. I think in the early days, it was entirely done by hand. You know, it was a craftsman using sometimes a chisel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, let's think about like going way back, right?
Whittling away at their wood.
Whittling away at the wood.
Good callback to last week.
That's a good callback. And then they have to hand paint things or they paint things and, you know, the brushes created detail even, right? Like you think about hand painted signs and, you know, just the custom signage, right? To do any of that was just, that's how it was done. And then, you know, you start to think about the processes that required an incredible amount of skill. I mean, not anybody could be a sign maker. You had to really have a craft to it, right?
Yep.
It took precision to get the detail you wanted, and it took a lot of time. You couldn't like, hey, I need a sign Friday. Well, I can't build one that fast. You know what I'm saying? You had to be thoughtful of it. And then the result, though, was really high quality work, and it honestly was limited by scalability, right? Again, mass production wasn't something you were doing when this first came around. And so then, you know, the role of the traditional tools really made a big part of that too, right? Sign makers eventually turned to tools like jigsaws, right? You know, you think about that, and you know, eventually hand routers. You get to the hand router world and being able to use a hand tracer to create some form of efficiency, right? But then the, you know, processes were still largely manual. There's a lot of like manual process to that.
Yep.
And each sign had some uniqueness to them. A lot of times some unique labor to them. The labor of love, right? And then the repeatability was significantly, you know, challenging.
Right.
Because you weren't going to build 10 of the identical signs. It just wasn't going to happen.
This makes me think back to like 30 years ago when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And like having wood shop class.
Right.
And using like bandsaws and jigsaws and
That's what I think about too.
planers and hand saws and belt sanders and stuff like that. And now we sell to schools every day.
Correct.
He's using a machine to do all those things that we did on 5, 6, 7 different machines.
Right. And that's exactly it. You know, the foundation of sign making is the artistry and craftsmanship, but you know, scaling the artistry was nearly impossible without new technology, right? And you know, so the introduction of CNC technology, you know, is really where we kind of are moving towards. And when you think of CNC technology, it's more than just CNC machines that ShopSabre sells, right? It's just CNC technology in general. And so, you know, CNC enters, you know, the scene, and really it's, you know, CNC is computer numerically controlled, right? And these machines come in a wide variety of things. And, you know, they begin making their way into sign making really in the late 20th century. And at first they're used primarily by larger companies, I think due to cost. You know, it was just like the cabinetry industry and all the other industries, but there was a lot of cost complexity to it. There was a lot of space required in the early machines, that they're big.
The guy in his garage doing little projects wasn't using a machine that was twice the size of his garage at that point.
I was gonna say that some of the machines were the size of your house.
Right.
Like they were big. And, you know, the machines brought a level of precision and repeatability that hadn't been seen in the past. You know, it's not something that was possible with a manual tool. And, you know, I think about my dad's story as a perfect example of that. Like when my dad's business before this one was computer driven, and Y2K was kind of like the big hype. And my dad realized that like quickly Y2K is going to come and go, and we're going to still have to do something, right? And my stepmom wanted to get into arts and crafts. And my dad was like, the hell if I'm sitting at a bandsaw the rest of my life cutting hearts and roosters. Like, and that's real though, because my dad knew that like he's gonna sit at a bandsaw and do this. He didn't want to.
Right.
So that's where you start to think about like getting into CNC. And that's why ShopSabre was born, is because my dad was like, I'm not gonna sit at a bandsaw the rest of my life doing that. And I can't afford to buy these big machines, right? I can't do that. So I gotta build something. And that's kind of where this started. And so that's why I kind of like say with ShopSabre, it was born out of necessity. It wasn't born out of profit or greed or anything. You know, it wasn't one of those companies that like, oh man, there's a huge market for it, I'm going to do this. Like, no, it was my dad needed to solve his own problem.
Right. Make his life easier and not have to spend a whole entire day to cut out 4 things, right?
Yeah. Correct. And so like that's where I start to think about like some of the companies today that we compete against, they're born out of greed.
Yeah.
They can import something out of
like, oh, we
another country.
can take advantage of this for 6 months, make a bunch of money, and then walk away.
Right. And there's been a lot of companies that have done that. Or there's companies that just, they don't really care about the product.
Right.
There's no pride in the product. They care about the money.
You buy it and then you don't hear from them ever again.
Right. Or
it's gone.
The service just isn't there because they don't understand it. And some of that is just like they're more interested in the money at the end of the day than they are the actual success. And so for us, like that's always been the difference maker for ShopSabre. We care about the product, truly. Like it's something that was born in my family. Mm-hmm. So there's a backstory. There's a whole thing there, you know? And so then the shift in workflow, you start to think about that. CNC allowed sign makers to design creations in software now, right? Where before you're doing it all like in your thought, like it's all in your mind, and maybe you could draw it out, but you're not going to like draw it out and then be able to utilize it's literally a drawing to give you a concept, but you have to still create that. Where now the evolution of CAD software, right? It's just that computer aided, you know, side of things.
Yep.
The CAD, the CAM, you know, there's so much there that it handles the cutting, the carving, the engraving, all of this different aspects of your sign that open up the possibilities to, you know, integrate some really intricate designs, you know, and
now you can almost just go to the internet and type in some words and it's going to give you ideas for projects.
Well, that's exactly it. Nowadays you can. Yeah. And then you think about the material, explosion too. Like for a while, like there wasn't all these materials to choose from. Like I think about when I was a kid, I mean, signs weren't made of all these other materials.
Made out of a piece of wood. That was
right.
It. That's all you had.
Right. And you think about like now there's it's such a wide range of things that, you know, you got wood, acrylic, aluminum, and now you have things like Dibond, which is aluminum and, you know, a composite material. Right. And then you have PVC and, as I said, composites. And I could go on forever on the type of material, foams, and, you know,
it just kind of shows that just like technology is advancing, they're coming up with all sorts of different materials that you can make
man-made materials. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. Like before it was you had to cut a tree down.
Right.
You know, now it's a man-made material.
Yep.
And so, you know, and with all of these materials, there's a way for precision and ease to be incorporated. So, you know, CNC just isn't streamlining sign making, right? It's not just about that, but it's opened up an entirely new creative possibility for all these industries, right? And as you start to think about the modern CNC sign making shop, I think it looks very different than what people saw even 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, it when you think about where are we now, right? Where does the CNC industry look today? Well, you know, you look at the modern sign shop, and it's a lot bigger than just a flatbed CNC router. You know, it's not just one of our machines sitting in the floor. In fact, you know, now there's the routers, and you have plasma, and now we have fiber lasers, and then we have CO2 lasers, and then you get into 3D printing, and then you start talking about screen printing, and then you talk about flatbed printing, right? How many signs do you see today that are not even a routed sign anymore?
Probably the majority.
Right. A lot of them are flatbed printed signs. Like you see a lot of flatbed printing, and that's where the router industry really has like surged, because you have the ability for efficiency and scalability because of all these technologies, right? The modern CNC machine allows sign makers to produce at really high volumes because you can nest out a sheet either on a router, on a laser, on a printer, and you mass produce these signs, right? Yep. And they're nearly identical. And it's got incredible precision, minimal waste. That's the craziest thing. When you take these signs and you cut them apart or you pull them off the sheet, like there's very little material left over. You've used the majority of it. And there's just a huge advantage to scaling your business through this. And, you think about the design flexibility, with advanced software, a lot of these software companies out there, the sign making can create really intricate 3D signs. You're able to do 3-axis simultaneous motion, which creates a multi-layered sign. And, you start to look at the details of engraving or the inlays that you can do. And I don't know, just to me, like the engraving that you thought was once impossible in today's world is just like a normal thing.
Well, I think what you mentioned before is one of the biggest takeaways for me is like in the software, you can move the stuff around and put it in your material so you don't have, think about how much money you're saving on non-wasted materials. Like if you're cutting something by hand on a saw,
right,
you have to cut the wood in sections, and then you have to section it up again and then cut your stuff. So you're wasting tons and tons of material, where in the software you can just move things around, spin it around, have no waste at all, and move on. And
you don't even have to move it around anymore. Now it just optimizes it for you automatically.
Because it just knows.
It just knows, exactly. So it's just, I don't know. That stuff is what's crazy for me. And then you think about the customization on demand, right? It's not just something that you have to kind of stay cookie cutter to. Like the amount of fonts available out there now are like endless.
Right.
So, you think about that, and then the uniqueness and the eye-catching signs. You think about people who do get into the wrap business, right? They wrap cars and benches and toasters and whatever.
Well, and you can actually like view what your product's going to look like before you do it,
right?
Instead of cutting and being like, oh, I don't like how that looks. I'm going to have to redo it.
That's
now
true.
You can just wait and get it finalized 100% what you want.
The rendering abilities nowadays is so incredible. Yep. Yeah, and like, I don't know. CNC allows sign makers to really meet a demand without sacrificing efficiency. That's, I think, the biggest thing with that. And let's talk about ShopSabre's role for a moment, because we're only one small part of this, right? But when you think about, like, we've worked closely with a lot of our sign making customers and a lot of you, the viewers, to talk about specific needs that you have and tailor those needs to a piece of equipment that fits it, right? Yep. And so, like, you think about ADA options, right? When we got into like ADA Braille, like we were one of the first companies out there that could actually do manual insertion of the Braille beads. Like you drill the holes and you insert it, and it works great. And there's a lot of people that still do it to this day that way, and it's phenomenal. But now you fast forward and we're into Braille printing, where it's using resin, and the printer attaches to the machine and it prints the beads, and we have a video on that. And you harden the resin, and that's your sign now.
Yep.
So like, you think about that ability with a machine alone, and then you start talking about these flatbed printers, right? And you have to have something that cuts around those shapes. So whether it's using an oscillating knife, or if you're talking about using the router in cooperation with your flatbed printer, where now you have a printed.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, easy for me to say. A printed registration mark. So you have all these registration marks all over and the machine just picks them up and then cuts around the shape. And it's like you use less material again.
Right. And I think it's one of those things that goes back to working with a company that's willing to make those advancements with their machine, right? They care about what you're trying to do instead of just selling you something to make money.
And I think that's a big part of who we are, is just innovation.
For sure.
Like we're really big on trying to stay ahead of the curve. And sometimes, that is thanks to the customers. They kind of help us understand where they need us to go. But, modern CNC is no longer a luxury. It used to be a luxury. And like when my dad got into it, it was a luxury for you to own a CNC machine. So that's why my dad was like, I'm going to build one. But like now I feel like they're a necessity for any sign maker looking to stay competitive in their industry. Like it's a very competitive industry. I will say that. Like it's probably one of the most competitive industries that I have been a part of, because there's just so many ways to do it now.
And I think that's kind of one of those things where there's endless creative options, right?
Yes.
Like what you think back, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and the signs on buildings or whatever, all were kind of the same, right?
Right.
And now everything is different. Nothing looks the same because of stuff like this, that you can make things so unique and different than everybody else. And
I think that's the biggest thing, is like, as much as it's a competitive industry, it's uncompetitive as well. Because like there could be 10 sign shops and they're all going to do something differently.
Because everybody has a different vision and different creative ideas that let flow.
Correct. And every person out there, every customer doesn't have the same desire.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you think about, real world applications. You talk about like custom branding, as you mentioned. We've had customers that do a lot of like custom retail spaces and things like that. And they use their CNC machine to create stunning 3D, signage for major brands. They've worked with some very big brands and, helping them stand out of the crowded markets. And then you talk about event signage alone. You start talking about trade shows and event booths, and, our friends over at Hatch Exhibits, as an example. It's another, usage of these machines, right? He creates event, you know, booths. He creates, you know, stuff specifically for trade shows, and, you know, he's done things for, you know, various government things like the presidential ball and things like that. He's done things like that. And it's like, it's one little area too, but it's an exploding market, right? And then you start talking about, you know, being able to cut a variety of materials in that industry. And then you talk about the small businesses too. I think about the mom and pop shops. We have a customer of ours that's in my hometown, and it isn't just for big players anymore. I mean, this is a one-man shop, kind of more of a hobbyist small business, right? He actually does go to work every day with another career, but then he comes home and he cuts a lot of these signs, and he does a lot of woodworking on the side, and, you know, he's thriving. I mean, he's offering some very unique custom signs at a very low cost.
Yep.
And it's a local business. You know, he does a lot of wedding venues where he does like for me, Bombardo, right? He would do the B and established, and he'd have the date, right? Like, there's so many things like that exist. And you think about Etsy and all the little businesses. So you think about the wide range of people that can now use CNC machines, and you're going from like your Etsy businesses, the home, and I shouldn't even say that because now there's some $1 million a year businesses on Etsy. So, but I'm talking about the guy who's just selling onesie, twosie signs, right? All the way up to these like major, you know, the Fast Signs Corporation, who now trust ShopSabre, you know, exclusively. So you got to think about that whether you're a large scale producer or a one person, one-off custom shop, CNC's there for you. Like it.
Yeah, there's no shop too big or too small at this point.
Right.
There's always a machine to fit the needs of what you have.
We think about tumblers, right? Let's talk about tumblers for a quick second. Like, how many of those, you know, cups are engraved with something? Like that falls into that world still.
Yep.
It's signage, right? It's branded. It's still something that you could think about, promotional products and all that. Like, it's not just about CNC routing, but I just think about where that industry has evolved in general. Like, it's everywhere
massive.
you look.
Yep,
yeah,
they're everywhere.
And so, you know, the future of CNC is really in the sign making world, right? It's a big part of it. And as we look ahead, you know, you got to think about like the automation and AI evolution, right? We're already seeing automation, right? The loader unloader machines are here. The artificial intelligence or AI, right? It's making CNC machines smarter and more efficient because now the software is getting easier. You know, I think about Photoshop. I couldn't run Photoshop 10 years ago. Now you can just type out what you needed to do.
Pretty much, yep.
And, you know, it's just going to allow the future of the CNC world or the sign making world, it's going to just include CNC that much more in the future because it's becoming easier to use your creative thinking with less labor intrusive operation.
For sure. And it's definitely more sustainable, right?
Right.
It becomes a priority. CNC machines can continue to improve your material efficiency and reduce your waste like we talked about earlier.
Right.
I mean, making signs are going to be more eco-friendly than ever before.
Right. And that's exactly it. Like, you think about the eco-friendliness of using a piece of equipment because now you're using less material.
Yep.
So therefore it's not as much waste. So that there's a big part of that. And I think as we have this like big push in the, you know, as energy, you know, conservation and just not having to use as much plastic, right?
Yep.
And therefore being more efficient with the plastic we are using. And, you know, then you think about the continuous innovations and things that come along with that. You know, we're at ShopSabre, we're one of those companies that we continuously push things forward and we try to kind of push the envelope. Sometimes we're forced to push the envelope,
Yep.
right? People push us in that direction. And you think about the software advancements and the intelligence of, you know, material handling, and there's really a bright future for CNC. I just think there's a lot of there, and really for me the future of CNC is in sign making. There's a lot of it there. It isn't just about what's possible, but it's about what's next, right? Like some of it might not be
100%.
possible today, but there's going to be stuff coming down the road, and I think.
I mean, I think back to just the 2 years that I've spent here and the things that I've seen change in 2 years. Like, obviously, there's no end in sight for what's going to continue to happen and evolve with CNC.
I agree 100% with that. Yeah. You know, so sign making has come a long way. CNC technology has been kind of in the heart of the evolution, whether it's from printers to lasers to routers. The handcrafted artistry still exists, but now the people are using cutting edge automation.
Yep.
They're using this equipment, and the industry has transformed into something truly remarkable. And I know people who are old school mentality where they did it all by hand, like they don't like it. And I understand that. But the reality is the world is evolving, and it's a necessity, right? It's part of the future. And if you're a sign maker looking to take your business really to that next level, there's really going to never be a better time than now to invest in that CNC technology. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself really behind the curve. And if you're already using CNC, it's a good time to push the boundaries of what you're doing with your CNC and finding the capabilities. Again, if you're using flatbed printers, what about cutting your own signs now and doing stuff with vision systems? And so there's some stuff, what about making your own ADA signs now and things like that? So, honestly, for me, anybody listening to this, anybody's watching this, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with some of your fellow sign makers or people in the industry. Anybody who's really curious about CNC, because I think, if you don't push people into this world, like it's really, they're only hurting themselves.
For sure. Be the person that gets to say yes now instead of no, right? We said that a million times on the show, but this is, proof right here, everything you can do with the signs and that business that's obviously booming, like you said.
Right.
You can do anything and everything.
Yeah, so make sure you visit ShopSabre.com, explore all the CNC options we got, the solutions. If you want to find out more about it, you can call us, obviously. Make sure that you don't forget to subscribe to us because we're going to have a lot more episodes just like this coming forward. Obviously, we're all about taking your sign business to the next level together. So, yeah, that kind of concludes my talk on sign making today.
That was really good.
Yeah, I thought so. Hopefully,
a lot of really good takeaways from that.
Yeah, hopefully people kind of think about how much is there. And you think about even if you're in a different industry and you're just looking for a way to make a little bit more with your machines, the sign industry could be a great area for you to be exploring. So
I think it probably gave a lot of realizations to those people to realize how many different things or more things you can do.
So many.
Like you said, if you can imagine it or dream it, you can.
Yeah. We just think about like
do it.
Even custom cutting boards, right?
Yeah.
With people's names in it. It's signage.
Yep.
But it's something that somebody in a house building set cabinets can do, So there's just so much with it. But I'm motivated on that. So with that, I'm going to jump into my motivational quote because obviously we got a little long in the tooth here on this episode. But my motivational quote this week is going to be, do not coach to who they are, coach to whom they can become. And that works not just in coaching. I use it as a coach term because it's something I believed as a coach when I coached young players. But I also believe in it and when you're a leader or a manager or somebody in a place of authority in any sort of a business, is you have to lead your team, right? And you have to look at them as a team. You can't look at them as anything other than a team. You're all in this together, right? But you can't coach for who they are today. You can't lead them for who they are today because who they are today isn't who they're going to be in the future, right? They're going to change. They're going to evolve. And the goal is that you want them to evolve with you. And so you have to really find out what are they really good at and really coach to those strengths.
Put them in a position to win.
Yeah, put them in a position where they're not going to fail because I think the NFL is a perfect example of this. Like how many coaches, how many teams, they draft really capable players early in the draft that are busts.
We've seen it here with Sam Darnold, I think, this year.
Right. And that's a perfect example of that. Is like if he had KOC as his coach his entire career, he probably is in a different spot today.
For sure.
But because he went into an environment that maybe wasn't conducive to his skill set. Now, I'm not saying those environments weren't conducive for other skill sets, but they thought we're just going to draft this high caliber player. He's going to plug into our system and we're going to win a Super Bowl.
We're going to win on talent alone.
Correct. And it's as Herb Brooks once said, you don't have enough talent to win on talent alone.
Right.
And it's the truth because talent can only carry you so far. And then the rest of it is like the rest of the stuff around you.
Yep,
and so
for sure.
That's where, again, you can't coach to who they are, but to whom they can become. And just that's my motivational quote of the week. So on that, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts before we kick this thing off to another episode next week?
Yeah, I think just going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, appreciate the moments that you have. Not to sound crass, but live every day like it's your last. Don't just assume that, like you said, you're going to be able to finish that project tomorrow or you're going to get to go and have dinner with your mom tomorrow because you never know. Don't pass up on those opportunities that you have. Put your time into the things that you should prioritize. Don't waste your times on things that don't deserve your energy.
Yeah. My final thoughts are going to be, don't let the opinions of insignificant situations affect more significant situations. And what I mean by that is as you look at the sign industry here, we talked about it, how somebody may think that it's a saturated industry.
Yep.
Don't let that opinion really cloud your thought because it's a lot bigger than that one person's opinion, and that's where I look at it as although maybe in that one area, yeah, you might have some competition, but there's so many things in your industry that you can expand your business into. And I just want people to think about that because as you start to feel how are we going to grow in 2025, I think you got to look at areas outside of your comfort zone. You got to find a way that, okay, we're cutting, cabinets all day long, but how can we get to the next step? Well, maybe you can get into, cutting drawers and doors, and maybe you can get into closets, or, maybe you are a sign maker and you've been cutting a lot of printed signs, excuse me. Maybe it's time to start looking at routed signs. Maybe it's time to start thinking about like die bond, you start thinking about, standoff signs, things like, there's so many things out there, backlit aluminum or acrylic backlit acrylic signs, you start thinking about those things. And I think if you look hard enough, you'll find a new avenue and a new channel. But yeah, if you want to believe that there's nowhere else to go, you're right. There's going to be nowhere for you to go.
Yep.
But if you start to look hard enough and say that there is a path, I just got to find it, you'll also find that one. So that's my final thoughts on it. With that, thanks for tuning in to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making incredible signs. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Until next time, keep talking shop.